It's Sunday, December 13th. Welcome to a new episode of Bazaar. I'm your host Sid, and joining me in the studio today is Aman Preet, host of TexWired and a very good friend of mine. Aman, it's great to have you.
Again, I would say I'm very happy to be on your show. So,
Yeah.
what we got today? Let's go.
So, this week we are going to be talking about a wonder plant which could make this world a better place, apparently. I'm talking about hemp, or
Okay.
as we Indians know it as bhang. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that most of us had a pretty close encounter with hemp during Holi. That's how we take our Thandais and stuff. So I know I did it, and I was pretty much flying in the air because it gives you that hit, that small hit in the brain. So,
Right.
but what's surprising is that hemp, apart from getting you high, has tremendous use cases in several industries. And we got the idea to do the show on hemp through a podcast called The Indian Dream, where they interviewed a company called Bombay Hemp Company. And that's when I heard that you can make clothes from hemp. And I was like, dude, I need to get Aman on the show. So that's how we came up with the idea. So let's just start understanding what hemp is. Aman, what is hemp?
Okay. As far as I've like researched and know about hemp, hemp is cousin of the marijuana family, I would say. So more like cannabis family. So cannabis has marijuana and hemp, but because of the reputation that we have on the whole marijuana
Yeah.
and the drug issues and stuff, so
Hmm.
hemp happen to fall under that negative light, and its reputation has not been so good over
Hmm.
the time. That's why. So hemp has actually a lot of potential currently, I would say. Being having its name attached to cannabis is what's not making it like come out of its shell. Is being blocked by a lot of these other legal issues with cannabis and marijuana. So if you see like the potential of it, you can, before we get into the whole industry aspect, just how fast hemp grows is just crazy.
Hmm.
You can harvest hemp 4 times a year depending on your environment. Usually people take it three, but if you have good environments, you can grow it 4 times a year. And it grows like weed, like how fast weed grows. Hemp also grows the same way. And it grows so much faster than any other, how to say, natural fibers, I would say. And if you want to understand the agriculture aspect of it, it doesn't even require, I wouldn't say doesn't require, I would say it barely requires any water. If you compare it to like any other natural fibers or any other forms of fibers, this plant does not, you would say it barely needs water, and it doesn't even require pesticides,
Hmm.
and the space required for it to grow is very minimum. Like the amount of hemp you can grow in a specific area of land, if you needed to grow any other plant, you would, for the same volume, you would need a lot more land area. And this hemp, it grows as high as 10 feet tall. So I don't know where the problem is with hemp. Like it is just, it's just good everywhere. It so just surprises me how underrated hemp is, I would say.
Yeah, because when I was also doing my research for the show, right, and everywhere, every article that I read about hemp, it was only positive. Like every use case, every article about hemp was positive. So I was like, why is it that it's not big in all these industries? Why it's not at the same level of scale as cotton, like you mentioned, and all
Exactly. Yeah.
all the other products. So we will dive deeper into the use cases of hemp in a bit. But one of the questions that I first had was when I started researching was, what's the difference between hemp and marijuana? Because a lot of people confuse hemp with marijuana. They feel that it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
It's the
But
same thing. Yeah.
yeah, because they are a species of cannabis. So both of these plants are a species of cannabis, and there's very little difference. If you were to technically differentiate between hemp and marijuana, it's the THC content. So you don't want to know the full form of THC, but it's
It's a difficult word.
but it's that part of the plant that gets you floating in the air. So
Right.
hemp is the species of cannabis which has less than 0.3% of THC, whereas marijuana is a species of cannabis which has more than 0.3% of THC, and in some cases, marijuana also has like 5 to 10%, and that's when people use it for recreational purposes to float in the sky. So
I was gonna add one point where a lot of these branding when it comes to cannabis, they use the shape of the hemp leaf. So a lot of the marketing, it also influences like how we
mm,
look at hemp. If you just pick any company that sells cannabis legally, you will see the branding or the name will always have a plant of a hemp leaf. So
mm,
I think that's where a lot of misunderstanding also happens, because when you think of cannabis, you think of a hemp leaf, but not exactly what cannabis looks like. Marijuana looks like, I would say.
yeah, so that's also some place where people can get confused, like between hemp and marijuana. And
Mm.
like you were talking about companies, and before when we begin the episode, we spoke about how there are a lot of use cases for hemp. And I remember you sent me that picture where you can use hemp probably everywhere, like every part of the plant can be used somewhere. So tell us something about that.
Yeah, I think hemp as a whole plant has a huge utility value. For example, so there are four parts to it. There's going to be a stalk, which is the base. There's going to be leaf, and there are going to be seeds and the flowers. So there are four parts that of this plant. I would break it down like one by one,
Mm,
and so, but I won't make it like too complicated. So
mm,
the stalk, the bottom part, so you can actually extract fibers from it, cellulose, and these cellulose, because it's natural, it can obviously biodegrade. So anything you make out of this fiber, you can actually translate these fibers to the spinning process and everything, and you can actually make textiles out of it. There are textile, it can be like industrial or for consumers. For
mm,
industrial, you can break it down to like there is ropes, carpets, and even in the construction materials.
mm,
Industrial textile is it's huge, and
mm,
hemp can go everywhere. And also, if you can make fiber out of it, you can actually convert those to textile fabrics also, and these fabrics can be used for clothing industry as well. So you can make clothes, or you can make fabrics, or you can make other things.
mm,
So that's the part of the stock. So it already has a huge industry just with the base of the plant. And
mm,
on the other side, there is I would say leaf. So leaf is packed with nutrients,
mm,
and it has antioxidants, and it has these healthy oils that are good for your brain, which is the omega-3 and omega-6 oils. So
mm.
people are using these leaves and putting into food. There are so many foods that are made of hemp. So if somebody's interested, they can look into it, and they will understand why hemp is being used, because it has antioxidants, and it has omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, which is good for your brain. So these are the leaves. And imagine, we have already covered two whole industries just with two parts of it.
Yeah.
And now comes the seed. So seed also has like a high nutrition value. There's it's high in protein, and it's very versatile. So like every seed, you can extract oil from it, and these oils are being used for cooking, or these oils are also used to make cosmetics.
Mm.
And cosmetics itself is a huge industry. Like cosmetics is, I don't know, it's
Oh
it's
yeah.
crazy how big cosmetic is, and how important it is for cosmetic to be of good quality. So imagine this
Mm.
hemp seed, which can just grow like an enormous pace, like we
Three
mentioned earlier.
months. Yeah.
Imagine we add that pace to cosmetics and cooking oils.
Mm.
That's another two industries. And now we still have the flowers left. And now these flowers are also, you can also extract some kind of oils, or there's so many other things that you can make out of these flowers, which you can use it for in
I think
like drinks.
skincare products, right? Skincare products and stuff, I think.
Yeah, skincare products. And it's also used in, they are adding this hemp flowers in like bars. So there are a lot of like a whole creativity around this drinks. That's another, I would say, hospitality industry, a part of the hospitality industry where you can actually use hemp as a whole marketing thing. So
Yeah.
imagine, we have already covered like, I would say, like six industries, just with everything we can do with one plant.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's just crazy how sometimes when I think about the potential of hemp, it's just like, why isn't this happening? People are talking about the environmental issues, and I'm like, this is the answer. Why isn't anybody doing it?
Yeah,
And
it's
also, like I think I missed out on the stalk part, which is the bottom of the fabric. So when you break out the fibers from the coating, the core inside, it is actually, it has a very woody, its characteristics are very much like a wood. So
Hmm.
that you can use for, like, you can use it for papers, cardboards, and you can also use that for construction materials, because it has this insulation value, and it also, you can create hemp crate, which is hemp and concrete together.
Hmm.
And also it is fire repellent in nature. So that's just
Makes
another whole
sense.
industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make paper and you can use it for construction materials. So that's another two industry to add. It's already eight industries you can, use hemp.
Yeah, man.
Like, it sounds too much, but it has the potential. Like, but that's what's very crazy about hemp. You can do literally everything with it.
It's the
It's
only thing
just
we need. It's the only thing we need then.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the nature's way of solving all our problems, I would say.
Definitely. And it's a no-brainer, I feel like. You mentioned we can the woody material in the stalk that's there in the core aspect of the plant. You can make paper from it. I remember you told me the Declaration of Independence of the USA was printed on hemp paper. So
Yeah,
that's
I was doing some research and they said, oh, back in the day, they were just making papers out of hemp. And those papers were where, the independence of USA Declaration was printed on and stuff. I read about it. And I
so
was actually very, like, shocked to see that.
so it's being done. Like it's not that hemp is being just used now. It's our ancestors were using hemp to make paper.
It's about, it's the history.
Yeah. And I remember you also told me that you need a lot of time to grow paper. Like for paper, you need to plant trees and it takes around what 20 to 80 years for the trees to grow at a level at which you can then cut them down and then use them to make the pulp and the paper. And I'm
Exactly. Yeah.
and another piece of statistic that we get is you can grow hemp in just 3 months. So
Yeah.
then it becomes a no brainer. Like why would you ever cut down trees to make paper when you can grow hemp in just 3 months and
Yeah.
you can make pulp and you can make paper out of it? Why are you not doing it? And once we dive deeper into it, it becomes more contrasting. So hemp has more cellulose from which paper is made. Paper is made from cellulose,
Yeah.
and it has like 85% cellulose compared to trees which have around 35% cellulose. Hemp sucks more carbon dioxide out from the sky more than the trees, and it makes the nutrient profile of your soil better. It doesn't let weed grow because it is a weed, so it doesn't let other weed grow on your farm. And the
Right.
most important part is that the paper made from hemp is more durable and stronger than paper made from trees. So i'm just I'm just sitting here and I'm
It's a
thinking,
no-brainer indeed. Yeah.
why would you make paper from trees now? Like even after knowing all these statistics, it's downright dumb in my opinion. If even after knowing all these things and you're still growing trees 20 to 80 years it takes, and just you're cutting the
Yeah.
trees
The
down.
whole Yeah, the whole, like, the supply chain model of papers is built around, I think, around 60 to 80 years of, like, the time span, like, for a whole supply chain to go, like, around circle. Like, the quality of trees, some trees take a long time to, like, mature before you can cut it and use it, and some trees can take about, like, 20 years to, like, our normal A4 papers, like, you have to wait for the trees to grow for 20 years before you can cut it. And hemp, on the other hand, is 3 months. It's just, dude, it's not even a comparison anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what it is, and that's what struck me. Like not only paper, like biodegradable packaging material is something you can make from hemp.
Yeah,
So
because it's a plant, right? So it's all natural, and anything that's natural can biodegrade. So, like, with all those uses that we have covered earlier, you can also use hemp for biodegradable packaging. A lot of, I would say, like, plastic bags. One of these,
hmm,
a huge issue is plastic bags. When people go shopping, imagine shopping for clothes, shopping for your groceries, shopping for anything. So whenever you go shopping, you always come back with a plastic bag.
hmm,
And how many of it, like, it just depends. Everybody uses it, so that is already a huge problem to tackle. So hemp can actually be used to make biodegradable packaging. So we can start with, these hemp bags, like shopping bags, that you can just, shop it, and it's actually, like you mentioned, it's very durable. So there's a potential to make these bags out of it. For I know that already solves a huge problem of shopping. And imagine it's even biodegradable. So
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer for that too. And imagine if you want to expand on the whole topic of packaging, imagine Amazon tries to use all its, because their packaging is also out of paper. Imagine
Yeah.
all of those packages of Amazon is biodegradable. It will be crazy. Like, I would love Jeff Bezos.
It it would change the game. It would change the game for the packaging industry. Like all the packaging vendors then would have to shift to hemp based product, because if Amazon is doing it, then Walmart will shift to it, Flipkart would do it, then Reliance would come, Ambani will do something about it. So yeah.
Yeah, imagine shopping not being a problem anymore because there is no guilt.
Yeah, man.
Because like how all these branding, they just hide the guilt of, the why you're shopping, but they will not cover that all the polyester the fabric is made from, and the packaging that you'll go home with is also like plastic, and all those tags that you have in
Mm.
your clothes, those are like made of like papers. There's so much more, to it. You can't deconstruct the fabric. You're going home, nothing is biodegradable. And the fact that there's no guarantee how long you're going to wear those clothes, and you're going to throw it later. What's landfill after
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
it's a huge process, but all we do is we just go shopping, come back, we are happy, and next day we just move on with our life. But imagine that is creating so much pollution, and we can just solve it out to like a huge extent. I wouldn't say completely. I'm sure
Mm.
there's going to be a lot of like economical problem, and the change is going to cost, so it's not going to be abrupt. But why not? And also talking about this whole thing being biodegradable, and we mentioned that hemp is very good as a construction material, but it also has like 4 times the absorption value of its weight. It can absorb much more than its own, like 4 times its size. So if you can compare this use, it is perfect for oil spills. With all these oils that's being drilled from so many places, if there's a spill in the water somewhere, you can just absorb the oil, and
Yeah.
you can actually recollect. Like, given all those oil spills that have been happening in the ocean, I'm not sure to like how they're cleaning the oceans, and how effective that is. But like, we already know hemp has a huge absorption utility, and it is biodegradable, so we can just use a lot of it and
Mm.
not have to think about it you know
And probably like we don't know how the science works, but the oil will not go waste as well. Like the hemp would absorb the oil, and then you can probably take that hemp to a safer place and then again extract that oil back. I'm not sure if that is how it could work out, but it's just probably like,
it's an option, and we
yeah.
can comply with it, but how specific it is, like the specifications of it, I'm not so sure, but based on the research, it is a possibility.
Yeah. And another aspect, like another thing that you spoke about was how hemp, the fibers could be used to make concrete and building materials out of it. So I think that's also very interesting aspect. And that's a industry, because I think concrete is like second or third when it comes to contributing to pollution and stuff. So that's also a
Yeah.
completely different industry, which hemp could disrupt in the long run.
So yeah, hemp concrete, I'm not sure how much it has been marketed, but people are making, the companies that are, starting out in this whole hemp space, they are also making this hemp concrete, and they are pushing it to make new houses, or, construction, industrial construction, I would say. So I'm not sure about the specifics, but it has a very high utility value. Like we mentioned earlier, it is flame resistance, it is also very durable as concrete. So I'm not so sure, like, why people all these construction companies are not moving to hemp.
It's probably sounding like a conspiracy theory to me now. Like why hemp is still not being used.
Yeah.
There is some documentary probably out there which talks about it in a greater depth than this podcast. But yeah, I mean everything, and this is one of the areas which will really interest you. When I was researching, I found that hemp can actually replace cotton and polyester in the long run. So cotton takes around 9 months to grow, and like you said, fiber takes a lot of water in the process of growing, and hemp grows in 3 months, and it requires like minimal water. It doesn't need water, very little water to
Yeah.
grow. So, and the yield cycle is less than half of what cotton takes to grow. So you can make 3 times the amount of product that you could make with cotton.
Yeah. So cotton uses like 5,000 gallons of water to make 2 pounds of fabric, like, which is just like a
Wow.
t-shirt and a pant.
Mm.
That's how much like 2 pounds of fabric is. But hemp uses half the land of the cotton to harvest that amount of cotton, and it uses only 10% of that water to produce the same. So imagine the cotton that you have harvested. So you need about half the space of that land and only the 10% of that water to
Hmm.
make the same like 2 pounds of fabric, which is, I don't know, cuts off like 90% of the thing.
So why is it?
Imagine half of the land and half and 10% of the water only to make a same t-shirt and a pant.
So then my question is, why is it not being done? Like, what's stopping? Why are companies not, instead of polyester and cotton? Why can't you just replace it with hemp and make stuff from hemp? What's the challenge
Mm,
here?
I think it's more about the change. Who's going to change it and who's going to change first. So what I think, it's going to come more from the consumer demand aspect, because if when the consumers are being more,
Socially aware,
I would say
or
more,
yeah,
yeah, so socially aware and more educated about this whole textile industry, which is why like my podcast is about, because I want to educate them about the whole textile industry. Sorry for the plug-in, but yeah. So when the consumers know about the clothes they wear, then they can be more mindful about their shopping experience. So once, okay, me being a consumer, if I know how much my clothes are polluting, I would go out and I would look a more
sustainable.
natural,
Yeah.
yeah, more sustainable, or I look for fabric that is more natural. Right now even cotton is natural, but people say even cotton is natural, it biodegrades, but the problem with cotton is the amount of water it uses and the amount of pesticides it needs to grow. So the pollution from cotton comes from the amount of pesticides and the water uses and the land it requires to grow. So
Mm.
cotton is biodegradable, but it requires so much of pesticides.
It's
So
not sustainable, right?
that's, yeah,
Because
that's the
India,
non-sustainability part of cotton, even though it's natural. So
yeah.
it's a misconception. So I think the change of this for hemp would come more from the consumer aspect. So when consumer go out and they stop looking for something that is polyester and they stop looking for something that is like cotton, then it will have a domino effect where all the inventory in the supply chain will start to hold up, and people in the business will not know what to do with the inventory, and they'll start looking into hemp, what's selling and not selling. Then they will start to shift slowly,
Mm.
what is being sold. Of course that's going to take time, because why polyester sells a lot is because it's cheap. and
Mm.
and imagine amount of people who can afford polyester. It's actually people, its market starts from people with minimum income,
Mm.
and it goes all the way to
Yeah.
like middle class or upper middle class. So it's a huge gap that polyester is fulfilling. But on hemp, I'm not sure, like if like imagine a carpenter, he goes back to his village, he doesn't care about hemp. He just have like I would say like 80 rupees or 100 rupees with him, that he can leave out for shopping. I would say he needs a new trouser. He
Yeah.
would obviously want something. He just needs a pant, he just needs a
Yeah.
shirt. He doesn't care if it's polyester or so that's a huge space that polyester is solving. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long it will take for him to get to that level of production, and because it has to have, there is no supply chain of hemp as of yet. It's not fully constructed. And
Mm.
plus, like in the textile industry, I would say every material has a huge different process. Cotton, the way you dye cotton, the way you weave it, the conditions that you require for cotton is completely different than polyester. And you
Mm.
make so many things out of polyester. The chemicals that you use to dye polyester, to weave polyester, is completely different. So all of these are separate games in itself.
Yeah.
So and people have spent huge amount of money to build an industrial space and all these huge machinery that that can dye or that can process a huge amount of polyester textiles, or like cotton textiles, because to fulfill the demands. So
True.
there's already so much investment being done, so people always going to look at the opportunity cost, because as of now hemp, it requires a huge shift. And for people, polyester is already selling, cotton is already selling. So
Yeah.
why do they need to change?
The
If it's
switching
not
cost.
broken, why fix it? It's
Yeah.
not. And that's the problem. It's not about something being broken and fixing it. It's about caring for the environment and shifting to a different material, like some sort of research, and like the business owners being a little bit more mindful about their business practices. It comes down to more of an ethical space when
Yeah.
when we talk about hemp.
It's at
it's
the end
it's
of the day, I feel that businesses are going to change only when it makes business sense to do it, because it's at the end of the day, you're going to make money. You will only do it when you're making money, right? You're also a business owner, so you need
Exactly. Yeah.
you need to make money to keep your shop afloat. And even though, like, I read that hemp is more durable and it's more stronger than normal cotton and polyester, but like you mentioned, a villager, he's not going to buy hemp products, right? A hemp cloth might cost around 1,500, 2,000, and
Yeah.
people can't afford that. Not everyone can afford that. So when the upper middle class, or the people who can afford hemp start buying, make that switch from polyester cotton to hemp, then probably,
Yeah.
business owners will start taking it seriously.
Yeah, because the luxury brands, a lot of them are already using hemp because they can charge a premium for everything. So it's easier for them to change, to have a switch, because a lot of these luxury brands, I forgot the names, but it's actually going to be like a lot of them are now switching to hemp, and more of circular economy where things are biodegradable, can be reusable. So it's, imagine, only the luxury brands are using it
Hmm.
or are doing it. So that itself says that it's more about the premium and the cost of it,
Yeah.
because it is expensive to change, and these luxury brands are, like, they can afford to change, and obviously the cost of the change, they're going to pass it down to their consumers, and consumers, they have the purchasing power to support it. So it's only the
Yeah.
luxury brand that can go for it as of now. But next is,
would
I would say, it's going to
would
be
you
for
buy it?
like a middle class. I would
Would you?
definitely buy it. Being in the textile business, now that I know about hemp, I would look for hemp fabrics now. Because right now, even I'm also dealing in like polyester and a lot of that, because that's what's selling currently in the business. But
Hmm.
I'm very interested in what hemp does, and how much further I can take into
Could
hemp.
be
So
it could be a business opportunity for you, a big business opportunity going forward.
yes, yes, yes. But like I said, it's going to require a lot of change from the consumer side. So I am not selling directly to the consumers. I'm selling to people who are making clothes, stitching clothes. So
Hmm.
if until they don't require it, I can't shift. They are my like, I also have customers. So I'm not in
The ecosystem
that
the
space.
ecosystem
Yeah.
has to change from the consumer, and then it will move backwards. It will move backwards to the retailer, and then to the wholesaler, and then to the farmers as well. So that's how
Yeah.
it will work out.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
because how do you beat the cheap mentality? Because if things are
oh
cheap, you
yeah.
just buy. And like, how much more attractive does something has to be to beat the cheap and best mentality? It's
So
difficult.
even if hemp becomes big, I don't think the poor people cannot afford it. So polyester and cotton are still gonna be there in business, but probably, hemp will capture
Yeah.
some sort of market share. But obviously, polyester and cotton, you cannot completely, take them
Yeah.
out of the game. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But also, like, cotton is not all that bad. Now the people are shifting to organic cotton, and also there is rayon, which is regenerated. It's made from this cotton lint,
Hmm.
and but the only problem with that is when you collect the cotton lint, it is natural, but the amount of chemical you have to use it to make it into like a yarn and then weave fabric, that is the polluting part. A lot of the pollution comes from chemicals that are being used. So people are trying to upgrade that material, by using less chemicals or reusing those chemicals. So there's new yarn also that's coming up, that is excel or tencel. So there's going to be hemp, there's going to be tencel, and there's going to be organic cotton. Yeah.
Hmm.
So these three are what's coming up, and tencel is already being used in luxury brands. But yeah, that's the thing. It's only it's seen as a luxury as of now.
So
So I
yeah,
think these three are coming up, I would say.
definitely. I mean, as a in the fashion industry, hemp is definitely, it's going to be a bright spot, and I would love to actually try out hemp clothes someday.
Oh, same.
I would
Yes.
I would love to do it.
Yeah.
So that's
It's the
one thing.
accessibility and the scalability for now. Yeah, if I want to do something with it, I have to see how scalable is it, and how I can build a value chain and supply
Hmm.
chain around it. So and it's not there as of now.
Yeah, and
It is
and if,
there, but very minimum. Yeah.
yeah, and the listeners, if you're thinking that this is the end of the use of hemp, the use cases of hemp, we have not even drawn out the big guns, because one industry which is on the cusp of disruption through hemp or through marijuana is the pharmacy industry. So, if COVID 19 has taught us something, it's that pharmacy companies will always make money. They will find out ways to make money through the vaccine, through the supply chain model. Pharmacy companies are always going to make money, but hemp is very useful in treating epilepsy and in chronic pain,
Hmm.
insomnia, and it has a lot of medicational purposes. It can be used in a lot of treating in a lot of diseases and in treating pains as well. So you know
Oh, I didn't know about that.
yeah, I
Nice.
mean, studies show that hemp doesn't have like has very minimal side effects compared to antibiotics. So just think of a world where you could grow hemp in your backyard, and you can probably just learn from YouTube how you can use hemp to treat chronic pains and treat certain diseases, like certain conditions like insomnia.
Oh,
Why would
that's
you?
perfect for people who look for home remedies, when they are sick or something.
Dude, painkillers are such a big market. I mean, if you could just do it in your backyard, if you could treat pain through growing hemp in your backyard, the painkiller market would be disrupted. I mean, it would it would go out of business. So that's it's a very risky and very scary time for pharmacy companies. It's just one more industry which hemp could really disrupt in the long run, in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think like on in that terms, like there is more to that, like in the automotive industry, which is all these cars and all. So back in the day, even I read about it that Henry Ford created a concept car with hemp, like back in the day, and he believed that hemp could be like the future of this whole car manufacturing and stuff. But it was back in the day where polyester still had to make a wave. So I think that kind of got pressed down somewhere. But it's not only Henry Ford who did. Even BMW now is using hemp fibers in the car doors and the front of the car, where what people call the dashboard, in front. All those the cushion that you feel in the car under it, it's all hemp fibers. Yeah, a lot of these luxury cars are using hemp fibers for in their cars because it is anti-inflammable and it has good absorption properties. So it's very safe to have it in a car.
I'm probably thinking, if Elon Musk comes out with a tweet and he says that from tomorrow, all Tesla cars are going to be using hemp-based fabric, that's when I think,
I'm buying a Tesla.
yeah, I mean, that could really make a change in the industry, right? The technical textiles industry as well. Big shift.
Yeah. Like, come on, like we are in this age of like sustainability. Just buying a textile car, I mean a car which is all, I don't know, all made of like hemp, and then use like solar cells and all that to like charge the car, and like no oils. Oh, this is just like a perfect complete world.
Yeah, definitely. And even back home, I remember you were telling me there was a company called Bombay Hemp Company, which is doing some really good stuff with hemp.
Yeah. When I was doing my research, who is supplying hemp as of now, and or like who are the players in India as of now. So I came across Bombay Hemp Company, which is in Mumbai, and I think this company was set up 5 years ago, I think, and they are involved in making supplying yarns, supplying fabrics, and they have other partner brands also that are making clothing out of it, and apparently it's not so expensive. I came across it, so
Hmm.
I was so if that's my concern as of now. How are they making like clothes out of hemp at such good prices? I'm sure there is a potential for scalability there, which I have to look out. But so Bombay Hemp Company is one of the first. I won't say one of the first. That it's a company that I came across which are all in, or they are going
Hmm.
big into hemp.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think they have like based on like on the website, how much I've read, I think they already have a good proof of concept, and I think they are going to grow.
yeah. I mean,
Like
if
based on how much they are in it, it feels like hemp is going to be the future, that they are all
and
into it.
if hemp and if hemp is the future and hemp disrupts these industries in the way that we are estimating it to disrupt, then Bombay Hemp Company, especially in India, would be in a very, like, it will be in a pole position to capture that market share, right, from all the other industries. So it's there. I mean, it's the growth potential is there. I think the only
Yeah,
draw side in India is that the regulations are still not out there, because I think because
it's not seen in a good light so far, like we mentioned earlier.
yeah,
So the it falls on the legalization processes also.
because if you see, hemp and marijuana are increasingly getting legalized in US, Canada, in Europe. I think it's completely legal in Canada to use it for recreational and medicinal purposes. Even in
Right.
US, I think a lot of states are now opening up. They were using it for medicinal purposes, but now also for recreational purposes and for a tons of other stuff. It's being legalized globally. But when you come back to India, it's only legal to cultivate hemp in states of Uttarakhand and UP. So
Right.
there's
Yeah.
only two states where you can actually cultivate and grow hemp. So that's one of the drawbacks, when it comes to the growth of hemp in India. And India as a country contributes 0% to the global cannabis market. So the potential for Indian companies to make a mark globally is tremendous, because when I was reading an article, they are estimating that the cannabis
Mm.
market is it's going to be a $73 billion industry by 2027. So
Oh. Mm.
I mean, if you could capture even 1% or even 2% of that market, Indian companies, they would love it. They could make a big business out of it. So, you
Yeah.
know,
Then I'll buy a Tesla for you, bro. Tesla on me, I would say, if I could do that.
yeah, man, definitely. I mean, if you could capture that, the growth in the textiles market through hemp, then Tesla is a small. I need a penthouse, dude. Tesla, you'd get away cheaply then. So
Oh, I
so
have to
that
make
was
sure the penthouse is made out of hemp concrete as well.
yeah,
So
like
it's too
you
much of awareness.
yeah. And like you mentioned about Bombay Hemp Company, which was one
Yeah.
of the very first Indian hemp companies to crop up in the space. There are a lot of other companies that are getting in the hemp base industry. So there is Hemp Foundation, Hemp Republic, Hempsters, and
Yeah.
a lot of companies are selling a variety of products ranging from healthcare to nutrition to health fabric and clothes. So this tells you that the potential. These companies are recognizing that India is at a tipping point, I would say, at an inflection point, where consumers are now understanding we need to shift from everyday products and try something new. So
Mm.
the potential is great, man. And I think 5 or 7 years down the line, if the implementation, if the government opens up the other states, like only two states are opened up right now, but if you open the entire country, then sky's the limit.
Yeah, and imagine like the geographical space that India has. It can be very competitive in like the global market, I would say.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also for the farmers, I feel like if they use hemp, the soil would be better, less water, because India is a country which is, it doesn't have a lot of water. We cannot waste water excessively because we are running out of groundwater very quickly. So in every sense of the way, hemp makes sense. And it's only for the government to understand the potential and to make something out of it, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a whole movement that is yet to come.
Yeah.
Can't wait for it. Yeah.
So
I mean, we have to get on with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And globally, like we've
So,
already spoken about it, but what are some industries that do you feel you're confident enough that, these industries are going to be disrupted going forward?
mm, I, w- I would say is like first is going to be textile. I would say first, I was going to be textile is going to be one of them. There's going to be automotive industry. There's going to be construction.
Mm,
I think yeah, these three things like I would say these are definitely going to get because there are some companies that they are like buying up lands in these rural areas where and they are going to make the farmers only plant hemp for their
mm,
use.
mm,
So these big companies can I read about it, I forgot the name of the company, but there is one way like a huge company can just get a whole land on the company name and get all the farmers around it, provide them with jobs and make them cultivate hemp, which they can use it in
mm,
their production. So I think that is a good CSR also and a good change in
mm.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also if you compare it to like polyester as of now, it's like polyester is bad because this petroleum that has been dug out of the ground, and it has taken million of years to compress all that carbon and all that gases to under the earth for it to like become oil and stuff. I'm not exactly sure about how that how oil is done, but then
we are
it
we are
yeah, we are
not
not
scientists.
scientists, but I can say that plastic is a petroleum product, to cut it short. So these plastic are read that it takes about 150 years to biodegrade, and imagine how much pollution that we are collecting, that for it is much more worse than the wood. like the paper industry. The whole supply
Mm.
chain is just 100 years, and we are already like, it's a problem. And imagine polyester taking 150 years. That's like two lifetimes for just your plastic. That's just for your plastic bag to go back in nature. And imagine how much you shop in one lifetime. So that's,
Yeah, man.
if you compare the magnitude, it's just huge. That's why plastic is such a big problem, because it does biodegrade, because it is part of the earth, but it's just the amount it takes to
That's
get
right.
go back in the nature.
It's a very slow process.
I was listening to some talks and some more readings, and I came across, there's a huge part of Pacific that has so much plastic that it's almost the size of Texas, the Texas state
Wow.
in US, and that is huge. And given how huge the Pacific is, like Texas, it's gonna seem very small,
Yeah,
because obviously there's more water than land. So if you break down the ratio, obviously it's gonna look very small, but it's a huge island in water which is all plastic. So that
shit,
is
man.
crazy. And
That's
just because we don't see it, it just doesn't feel like a problem.
how you sum it up is it's very good, because just because we don't see it, right, we feel that it's not a big problem. that's
Yeah.
that's why we are not doing anything about it, right? Just because we, in everyday life, we cannot see it. Once we reach a
Mm.
point where it becomes irreversible, that's when
Mm.
we will understand that यार अब तो वाट लगने वाली है अपनी. So that's
I think people will be more mindful if you can track your waste. If I know where my waste is going every day, there's an app for it. It's like a government app, showing where your waste is going. I think people will be so much concerned about what they're doing. It's a very simple thing that I was thinking about the other day.
that's
Like if
a
people can just know where the trash is going, they will already think about everything in their trash. Your trash is going to this area, and there are so many villages around that, and it's polluting. So you will feel bad. Why is my trash going there? And then you'll start. If somebody who is mindful and is more towards
yeah.
changing things and cares about, they will start thinking how they can reduce that. It's one of this wild idea that I was just thinking of the other day
This is
when
a
I was doing some research on hemp. Like when I was just thinking to the extent, what is it going to take for hemp to come out,
yeah,
and
man.
how and to what extent of education that people need to have to like look into, to change their behavior, because it's very hard to beat the cheap and best idea,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
it just fixes everything.
I think you just stumbled upon one of the ideas of the century of how we can change consumer behavior. Just create an app which can track where the waste is going, just from A to Z, like what you're consuming, where it's coming from, then where you dump it, where it goes. But I think to develop that, you're gonna need a lot of funding. You're gonna need government support to do that, because I don't think any private company is gonna do that on a
Yeah.
strictly business. It doesn't make business sense, right, to do this. The government, if
I'll have to put my Tesla on hold. Just-
yeah, so that's a very good
yeah.
idea. That's a very good idea. And apart from textiles, I think we've already briefly covered it, but the two biggest industries I think would be disrupted, is paper and pharmaceuticals. So the global paper
Yeah.
and pulp market is somewhere close to $63 billion. And like we
Mm.
discussed, it makes
Yeah.
no sense. It makes no sense to make paper from trees, because you're cutting down trees. It takes 80 years. It uses more water. The cellulose content is just half of what you can get from hemp. So I think the paper industry is going to be
Right.
disrupted, hands down. I think in the next 7 to 10 years, it's going to be completely disrupted. And second, I think the pharmacy companies, they need to be aware, because if you can treat complex diseases and pains through hemp or marijuana, if
Mm.
you could do that in an easy way, why would I ever buy an antibiotic, right? Why would I spend so much on healthcare? Why would I buy health insurance, all that stuff? So those are the
Yeah.
ancillary
Just go to your backyard and just pluck
yeah,
out some leaves.
just make a paste out of hemp. I don't know how the medicine is made, but yeah, I mean, you can just grow a
Mm.
plant and that's it, man. You can save what, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 on medications, and I
Mm.
mean that does add up,
Yeah.
right, eventually. So
I just thought of like some loophole in like this pharmacy. Like you said, obviously it's going to be disrupted, but in this pharmacy space, I think there's a lot of approvals that that are required for to make it look like it's
yeah,
safe for consumption. That it's not about the chemicals that are used in pharmacy, but it's more about
that's
you are
where
buying
the
medicine, you're gonna buy from a verified company.
that's where the pharmacy companies will actually use their power. They'll lobby those regulators and make sure that hemp based medicines don't come out. They'll probably come out with a news that hemp is not good for you. You should keep taking those antibiotics and don't use hemp
Yeah.
because it's bad for you. So that's going to happen.
Fake research. Yeah.
That's going to happen. I can already see it 5 or 7 years
Yeah.
down the line.
Nobody goes down without a fight. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the money that they have, because pharmacy industry is already losing $4 billion every year to the cannabis market. So it's a big
Oh my
problem.
God.
It's a big problem for them. And let's see what happens.
Yeah. Like if yeah, I think that's the thing. Like if these companies, if these companies are so smart, if they can't compete with these other one, I think they will just buy them. That's how capitalism works.
Right.
It's usually whoever has the upper hand, they will just gonna they are the big sharks, the big shark can eat the small fish
That's
easily.
how money works, right? That's how
Yeah.
capitalism works. That's how, like, you use the money in your balance sheet to acquire upcoming industries. And I think the point you mentioned is very significant, because if you see the deals that are happening in the cannabis market, right?
Yeah.
The cigarette maker Altria, which makes Marlboro cigarettes, it recently acquired a company called Kronos. It acquired a 45% stake in Kronos, which is again a cannabis company. And there's a
Okay.
beer maker, Constellation Brands, which makes the Corona beer, right? And it makes a lot of other spirits,
Oh yeah.
wines, all that stuff. So it bought Canopy Growth, which is the largest cannabis player in Canada. So it's
Okay.
happening. It's happening. People, all these companies,
Hmm.
like we are talking about it now, but there are smarter people out there who already have foreseen this. They know that hemp is gonna be the probably one of the biggest industries in the future because of its use cases, and
Yeah.
they are already buying cannabis companies. And likewise, I think even pharmacy companies, they are gonna buy tons of hemp based companies in the futures to come, because from the research that we have come
Yeah.
across, the world would be a better
They'll
place.
probably just join them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because pharmacy companies, the money that they have, I don't think that it's gonna be so easy for a hemp company to just come out and just create and just disrupt the business. So probably they will get acquired in the long run. But it doesn't matter, right? Even if pharmacy companies acquire these hemp companies, if they switch from antibiotics to hemp, I think the world would be a
Yeah.
better place. And that's all that matters, right? If money is going in sustainable development, that's good. That's good for the future, and that's good
Might
for.
as well, yeah. I think, yeah, like to like just sum it up, like this we have already discussed too much. So to sum it up, like I would say what I think is hemp has like a fight to go. Like it is like an upcoming. It's upcoming. So you have to find it's a new artist. I would say like how new
Mm,
artist it has a point to prove. So for now, hemp has a point to prove, and it can only be proven by a lot of these small boutique brands. There are all these luxury brands trying to experiment and use hemp. So once they develop this whole concept, and that they know that okay, hemp is good now, then people will go into the branding of it. Like how a good singer, he has to prove himself with he has to experiment with a few songs and stuff like that and make an album. But then once that album just hits the market and it just becomes top selling, then everybody jumps onto
yeah,
how this artist is doing this, how is that people started following that artist, how he's doing this, how he's processing his music and stuff like that. It's going to be the same with hemp.
it's
People are just going
gonna.
to be okay, all of these small companies have created like banger products out of hemp, and now how do we jump on it? And they'll start going to have case studies about hemp, how it's being used in all the industries that we have mentioned, and its use
Yeah,
cases. I think all of them are just going to start studying hemp more and more and be like, okay, let's do this, let's do that. And it's going to be for good, because people who have money, companies that have money, are probably going to have the
control of
power
it.
to go the
Yeah.
extra mile with hemp and do more with it. Which a small company, they just have a concept and just trying to sell it. But these big companies
Mm,
that you mentioned, they might just acquire
mainstream
the small ones, and like,
hemp.
yeah, like how
Hemp.
Apple does it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if they find a good technology, small technology that they can, obviously they have vision, they know that they can use it to expand their product line, or whatever. They're just gonna buy it. So I think this is what's gonna happen with hemp. It's an upcoming artist that has already done its audition. I would say.
Yeah, yeah, nice way to put it. And yeah, definitely we think the potential of hemp is great once the the bigger shots in the industry understand the potential, probably invest in hemp. That's when hemp would become mainstream and we would truly inch towards a sustainable future. So fingers are crossed. We do hope that hemp becomes big in the next 5 to 10 years. And
Right.
that's it. I think we've covered a lot of stuff. And if you are still listening till this point, I think we thank you for bearing with
Good.
us. And Aman, again, it was great to have you on the show. Your perspective is amazing, not only on textiles but on the level of research that you do, and your perspective is something I really like to have on the show. So
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Siddha. Thank you for having me on the show. But also, like, it all comes out, like, because I get very enthusiastic when I'm talking to somebody who is equally enthusiastic about hemp. Like, you said, let's do an episode on hemp. It's very good. So, when I got into it, because you are excited about it, even I'm very excited. So it feels like, maybe we
yeah,
should do a lot more to share with our listeners. Whoever's listening, maybe they can get more value. I just want to provide as much value as I can, maybe like through your
yeah,
podcast or
we
whatever.
we share the same vision, and because the way the rhythm that we have is also good, so that also helps. And when you share the same
Yeah.
vision, when you want to provide value to the listeners, then automatically it comes out, right? It's not artificial, it's genuine. We really want to add value, and we want to do it in a very, we don't want to do it for the sake of it, but we want to provide quality as well. So that's
Yeah.
how it happens. And
So thanks to your podcast, thanks to the Bazaar podcast.
if you want to take a deeper dive into the world of textiles, you can start your journey into fashion and textiles by following Aman's podcast, which is called TexWired, where he actually interviews people in the textile industry. So it's not a solo podcast. He interviews people who know their stuff, who have done something in the textile industry, in the fashion industry. If you're interested in fashion or textiles, just follow his podcast. That's all you need, really. So, Aman, thanks for
Thank you. Thank you for the plug-in, and yeah, thank you for the podcast.
all right, guys. That does it for this edition of Bazaar. People on the show may have certain recommendations to buy or sell, but don't buy or sell based on what you hear. Do your own research before you take any investing decision. Let us know what you think. You can reach out to us at thebazarpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to know, any other topics that you would like for us to cover, our insights on it. So just give us a feedback, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen. It helps us. It makes us feel that, we are doing something. So take care, and we'll see you next week.